The galaxy faces consequences, our. Once humans step away from negotiations, Captain Daniel Brooks stood in the main hall of Harmony Prime Station and tried not to show his frustration. The massive chamber stretched above him like a cathedral, with seats arranged in circles for representatives from 12 different alien species. Lights from distant stars filtered through the transparent dome overhead. It should have been beautiful, but Daniel had learned to hate this place over the past 3 years. Next to him, Lauren Hayes shuffled through her data pad one more time. She was the lead diplomatic officer for the human delegation, and she had prepared their presentation perfectly. Daniel knew it would not matter. It never did. The Galactic Assembly had called this meeting to discuss territorial claims in the Outer Rim. Humans had discovered and surveyed 15 star systems in that region. They had found valuable minerals and established research outposts. By any reasonable standard, those systems belonged to humanity. But the Assembly did not care about reasonable standards when it came to humans. The Keek speaker called the session to order. The Keeks were an ancient race that claimed to bring wisdom to the galaxy. They looked like tall, thin mantis creatures with too many joints in their limbs. Their speaker, Zixquan, gestured with one of his 4 arms for silence. "We gather to address the matter of the Outer Rim territories," Zixquan said. His translator made his clicking speech sound formal and cold. "The Krenth Empire has submitted a claim for mining rights in sectors 7 through 21. Daniel felt his jaw tighten. Those were human sectors. His people had spent years mapping them. Lauren stood up smoothly. "Speaker, humanity formally objects. We discovered those systems. We have active research stations in 3 of them. Our claim predates the Krenth filing by 18 months. A sound like laughter rumbled through the chamber. It came from the Krenth section. The Krenth looked like a cross between bears and reptiles, massive creatures with thick scales and powerful limbs. Their ambassador, Commander Thex, rose to his full height of nearly 3 meters. "The human's object," Thex said, his voice dripping with mockery. "How quaint. Tell me, little newcomers, what fleet do you have to enforce this claim? What weapons make us fear your objection?" "This is a legal matter, not a military one," Lauren replied, keeping her voice steady. Daniel admired her control. "We're operating under the Treaty of Exploration rights. First discovery grants primary claim. Treaties are for those with power to enforce them," Thex shot back. "Humanity has been part of this assembly for only 50 of your years. You are children playing at civilization. The Krenth Empire has ruled star systems for thousands of years. We will take what we need." Zixquan did not call for order. He simply watched with his large, dark eyes. Daniel stood up now, moving beside Lauren. "We came here in good faith. For 3 years we have negotiated. We have compromised. We have followed every rule of this assembly. And for 3 years you have ignored us, dismissed us, and taken what we discovered. Because you are weak," said a new voice. This came from the Velen section. The Velen were merchant traders, small reptilian beings with quick minds for business. Their representative, Mexval, clicked his teeth together. "You produce interesting goods, humans, but you have no real power. Why should we treat you as equals?" Lauren pulled up data on the main display screen. It showed charts of human contributions to galactic trade, security patrols that human ships had conducted, and research breakthroughs that humanity had shared freely with other species. "These numbers show our value to the galactic community," she said. "We have given much and asked for little in return. We only want recognition of our legitimate territorial claims." "Numbers on a screen," Thex growled. "We see no value. We see a species that cannot defend its claims and therefore has no claims." The Assembly voted quickly. It was not even close. 11 species voted to grant the Krenth exclusive mining rights to the sectors humanity had discovered. Only the Methan, a peaceful species of energy beings, abstained from voting. Daniel felt something break inside him. Not his spirit, but his patience. He had been a military officer before becoming a diplomat. He understood power and respect. This assembly had neither for humanity. Lauren looked at him with sad eyes. She knew what was coming. Daniel collected his data pads and stood tall. Lauren did the same. The rest of the human delegation, 12 people who had worked so hard for so long, gathered their materials. "Captain Brooks," Zixquan said, his tone suggesting boredom. "Do you have something to add?" "Yes," Daniel said clearly. "Humanity withdraws from all negotiations with this assembly. Effective immediately, we are done talking." For a moment, silence filled the great hall. Then laughter broke out again, louder this time. "It came from multiple sections. You withdraw?" Thex said between his rumbling laughs. "What does that mean?" Will you hide on your little homeworld and pout? It means exactly what I said, Daniel replied. We will not negotiate with beings who will not negotiate in good faith. We will not present evidence to those who will not look at it. We will not ask for fairness from those who do not understand the concept. Zixquan waved a dismissive arm. You may leave if you wish. The galaxy will continue without you. Yes, Daniel said quietly. It will, and you will learn what that continuation looks like. Lauren stepped forward one last time. For 3 years we have been patient. We have been reasonable. We have been peaceful. We offered friendship and partnership. You responded with mockery and theft. Remember that in the months to come. The human delegation walked out together. Their footsteps echoed in the vast chamber. Behind them, the laughter continued. The Krent thought they had won. The Velen were already calculating how to divide up human trade routes. The Kicks felt satisfied that order had been maintained. None of them understood what had just happened. Daniel led his people through the corridors of Harmony Prime toward their docked ship. His communication device buzzed. It was a message from Admiral Peter Grant back on Earth, sent hours ago, but timed to arrive now. If they reject the final proposal, the message read, "Come home. We have other plans." Daniel smiled for the first time in weeks. It was not a friendly smile. The human ship undocked from Harmony Prime 30 minutes later. It turned toward Earth and jumped to faster-than-light speed. Behind it, the Galactic Assembly continued their session, already moving on to other business. They had forgotten about humanity before the humans even left the system. It was a mistake they would remember for the rest of their lives. Back on the station, only Ambassador Lyra of the Methan people watched the human ship disappear with concern. She had studied humanity more carefully than the others. She had seen their history, their wars, their determination. She knew something the rest of the assembly did not. Humans did not make empty threats, and they never forgot an insult. She sent a private message to her homeworld that night. The humans have withdrawn from the assembly. I fear we have made a grave error. Prepare for consequences. Her warning went unheeded. Her government, like all the others, believed the humans were simply leaving the stage. They did not understand that humanity was not leaving. They were preparing. The galaxy would learn the difference soon enough. The galaxy faces consequences, Azabro. Once humans step away from negotiations, 2 weeks had passed since the human delegation walked out of Harmony Prime. The galaxy barely noticed at first. Human merchant ships stopped appearing at neutral trading posts. The busy stations that connected different species suddenly had empty docking bays where human vessels used to be. Station managers logged the absences but did not worry yet. They thought the humans would return soon. On the station deep market, a Velen trader named Pex Rin discovered his suppliers were not coming. He needed medical scanners that only humans manufactured. His customers were waiting, and his reputation depended on delivering on time. He sent 3 messages to his human contacts. All 3 bounced back with the same automated response. Humanity is no longer participating in galactic trade agreements. Please do not contact this address again. Pex Rin stared at the message in confusion. Not participating? What did that mean? He tried other human traders he knew. Same response. Every single one. On Earth, Admiral Peter Grant sat in the command center of the Colonial Defense Committee. The room hummed with activity as officers coordinated the biggest repositioning of human forces in history. Screens showed the locations of every human ship, station, and colony in known space. Captain Daniel Brooks entered the room and saluted. He had returned from Harmony Prime to find himself promoted and reassigned. Instead of begging aliens for respect, he was now planning how to protect humanity without their help. Status report, Admiral Grant said without looking up from his display. All diplomatic channels are closed, Daniel replied. Every human liaison has returned from alien worlds. Our colonies have recalled their representatives. We are completely withdrawn from galactic communication networks. Good, the Admiral said. And our people understand why? Daniel nodded. Everyone knows what happened at the assembly. They are angry. They support the decision. Admiral Grant finally looked at him. The Admiral was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, but those eyes held steel determination. Anger is useful, but discipline is better. Make sure our people stay focused. This is not about revenge. This is about survival. Understood, sir. Across the room, another officer called out, Admiral, We have incoming messages from the Velen Merchant Guild. They are requesting urgent talks about trade restoration. Response? Admiral Grant asked. Same as all the others, sir. Automated message. No negotiation. The Admiral permitted himself a small smile. They are starting to feel it. Good. On the frontier. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the patrol ship Defiant. His crew was young but well-trained. They monitored the border regions where human space met the territories claimed by other species. Sir, we have movement, his sensor officer reported. Krenth battlecruiser entering Sector 14. Jake studied the display. Sector 14 was one of the disputed zones. It had resources both humans and Krenth wanted. Before the withdrawal, there would have been negotiations. Now there was only silence. Are they crossing into our claimed space? Jake asked. No, sir. They are staying just outside our markers. Looks like they are testing us. Jake nodded slowly. He had expected this. The Krenth wanted to see if humanity would back up their walkout with action. They wanted to know if humans would defend their borders without the assembly to hide behind. Continue monitoring. Do not engage, but record everything. Sir, if they cross the line, then we will find out what our new orders really mean, Jake said quietly. His orders from Admiral Grant were clear but frustrating. Watch. Document. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Humanity was pulling back from all contested zones, consolidating their position. To anyone watching from outside, it looked like retreat. But Jake had served long enough to recognize the pattern. This was not retreat. This was preparation. On Mars, Dr. Claire Watson worked in a research laboratory buried deep under the red surface. She was a weapons specialist, though she preferred to think of herself as a defensive systems engineer. The distinction mattered to her. Her team had been working on improved shield technology for 5 years. Progress had been slow because funding always went to diplomatic efforts first. Now suddenly everything had changed. Admiral Grant had redirected massive resources to military research. Claire's project went from having a small team and limited budget to having everything she needed. The message was clear. Humanity was done asking for permission. Now they needed to be ready to defend what was theirs. How long until we can field test the new shields? Her assistant asked. Claire checked her calculations again. 3 months. Maybe 2 if we skip some safety protocols. The Admiral wants it in 6 weeks. Claire looked up sharply. That is pushing it. We could have system failures. The Admiral said we have been peaceful for 3 years while developing this technology. He thinks we have tested it enough in simulation. Now we need it on actual ships. Claire sighed but nodded. The Admiral was right. Simulation was not the same as real combat. And if her intelligence reports were accurate, real combat was coming whether humanity was ready or not. Back on Harmony Prime, the Galactic Assembly met for routine business. The Krenth reported their expansion into the Outer Rim. The Velen complained about trade disruptions. The Kix listened and made notes. Zix Quan, the speaker, addressed the Velen concerns. The humans will return when they realize isolation hurts them more than us. Give them time to understand their mistake. Mex Vol, the Velen representative, clicked his teeth nervously. With respect, Speaker, our economy is suffering. Human goods are not luxury items. They are necessities. Medical equipment, advanced processors, rare element refiners, we cannot replicate their technology. Then develop your own, Commander Thex rumbled from his seat. The Krenth rely on no one. That is why we are strong. Easy for you to say, Mexval shot back. Your economy is based on conquest. Ours is based on trade, and trade requires partners. Perhaps you should have thought of that before voting to take human territory, Ambassador Lyra said quietly. The Methan representative rarely spoke, but when she did, others listened. Her people were energy beings who glowed softly blue. They had no military power but commanded respect through age and wisdom. The Methan abstained from that vote, Thex said. Do you now criticize the Assembly's decision? I question whether it was wise, Lyra replied. Humanity asked for very little. Recognition of what they discovered. Fair treatment. Basic respect. We gave them none of these things. They are newcomers, Zix said firmly. They must earn their place like every species before them. They tried to earn it, Lyra said. We refused to let them. Now they have stopped trying. I wonder what comes next. The assembly dismissed her concerns. They moved on to other business. The meeting ended with no mention of the humans again, but in the corridors afterward, representatives spoke in hushed voices. The Velen traders were genuinely worried about their economy. The smaller species who had relied on human protection during border disputes felt vulnerable. Even some of the Krenth junior officers admitted privately that human military capability had been underestimated. No one took action, though. The assembly had made its decision. Pride would not let them reverse course so quickly. On Earth, Daniel. Brooks met with Lauren Hayes in a quiet office overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. They had worked together for years, and she knew him well enough to read his mood. "You think we are doing the right thing?" she asked, walking away from the assembly. "Yes, they were never going to treat us fairly. But what comes after? We cannot stay isolated forever." Daniel looked out at the ocean. "We will not be isolated. We will simply be selective. Species that want to deal with us fairly can talk to us directly. Species that want to mock us can do without us." "And if they attack?" Daniel turned to face her, and his expression was hard. "Then they will learn why humanity survived so long on a death world. We are not aggressive, Lauren, but we are not weak. There is a difference." Lauren nodded slowly. She understood. The galaxy had mistaken human patience for weakness. They had confused diplomacy with inability to fight. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Far out on the frontier, Jake Morrison watched his sensors as more Krenth ships gathered near the border. They were coming closer each day, testing the limits, waiting to see what humans would do. Jake knew the answer even if they did not. Humans would do what they always did when pushed too far. They would draw a line and dare someone to cross it, and when that line was crossed, the galaxy would finally understand what they had lost when they pushed humanity away from the table. The galaxy faces consequences are. Once humans step away from negotiations, 3 months had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Assembly. The effects were no longer small or easy to ignore. The Velen Merchant Guild faced financial collapse. Their entire economic system depended on goods they bought from some species and sold to others. Humans had been critical to that chain. Human medical technology saved lives across a dozen species. Human processors made faster-than-light communication possible over long distances. Human refiners could extract rare elements that other species wasted. Without these goods, the Velen scrambled to find replacements. They tried to reverse engineer human technology, but the attempts failed. Human engineering was not more advanced because of some secret. It was better because humans had learned to build things on a planet that constantly tried to kill them. Every human tool was over-designed for durability because that was how you survived on Earth. Pex Rin, the trader on Deep Market Station, had to close his business. His customers went elsewhere. 50 employees lost their jobs. He sent one final message to his old human contacts, offering triple the usual price for medical scanners. The automated response was the same as always. No negotiation. On Harmony Prime, the Galactic Assembly held an emergency session. The chamber that had echoed with laughter 3 months ago now buzzed with worried voices. Mexval stood before the assembly, his small frame shaking with anger and fear. "My people are suffering. Hospitals cannot treat patients without human medical equipment. Our communication networks are failing without human processors. We must bring humanity back to negotiations." Commander Thex of the Krenth looked bored. "Your people grew weak depending on others. The Krenth need nothing from the humans." "That is because you take what you want by force," Mexval snapped back. "Some of us prefer trade to theft." Thex rose to his full height, scales rippling with threat. "Be careful, merchant. The Krenth could easily decide your worlds need our protection." "Enough," Zixquan said, his translator making his clicks sound sharp. "We did not gather to argue among ourselves. The question is simple. Do we invite humanity back to the assembly?" "On what terms?" Ambassador Lyra asked. The Methan representative glowed slightly brighter, a sign of her concern. "Will we grant them the territorial rights we denied 3 months ago? Will we admit we were wrong?" Silence filled the chamber. No one wanted to admit mistake. Pride ran deep among the galactic species. "We could offer a compromise," suggested a representative from the Drex, a species that had remained mostly neutral. Grant them some of the disputed systems. Not all, but enough to seem fair. Why should we grant them anything? Thex demanded. They left. They chose isolation. Let them suffer for it. They do not seem to be suffering, Lyra observed quietly. Have any of you noticed that human ships have not disappeared? They have simply stopped going to neutral zones. Their colonies are growing. Their defenses are strengthening. They are not suffering. They are preparing. Preparing for what? Maxwell asked. Lyra's glow dimmed, a sign of worry among her people. That is what concerns me. While the assembly debated, the Krenth military acted. Commander Thex had received authorization from his homeworld to expand Krenth territory. The Empire had been patient long enough. The Outer Rim systems that humanity had discovered would belong to the Krenth. Whether anyone liked it or not, a battle group of 15 Krenth warships entered the Outer Rim. Their target was a system called Haven by the humans. It was a mining colony with good mineral deposits and a population of about 5,000 humans. Intelligence reports said the colony was lightly defended. The Krenth expected easy victory. On Haven, Governor Helen Price received the warning from long-range sensors. Krenth ships were approaching. Standard procedure said she should evacuate the colony and retreat. The Galactic Assembly would file a protest and eventually, maybe, some negotiation would happen. But there was no assembly protection anymore. Humanity had no allies in the galaxy. The question was simple. Stand or run? Helen called a meeting of the Colony Council. They gathered in the main administrative building, looking at the sensor data on the large screen. We have 12 hours before they arrive, Helen said calmly. That is enough time to evacuate if we start now. We can save everyone. And lose everything we built, said one council member. His name was Carl Martinez, and he had been one of the first settlers on Haven. We have been here 8 years. We built homes. We built lives. Better than losing those lives, another member argued. Helen held up her hand for quiet. I have been in contact with Earth. I asked Admiral Grant for guidance. Do you want to know what he said? The council waited. He said the decision is mine, but he also said that if I choose to stay, humanity will back that choice. He said the withdrawal from the assembly was not surrender. It was preparation, and he said that Haven sits exactly on the line of recognized human territory. If the Krenth cross that line, they will learn what it means. What does that mean exactly? Carl asked. Helen smiled grimly. It means we are not alone anymore. It means if we stand, Earth stands with us. The question is, are we brave enough to trust that? The council debated for 2 hours. In the end, they voted, 8 in favor of staying, 3 for evacuation. Democracy had spoken. Helen sent her message to the approaching Krenth battle group. This is Governor Helen Price of the human colony on Haven. This planet is sovereign human territory. Your approach is noted and unwelcome. Turn back now. The Krenth commander who received the message laughed so hard his subordinates heard it through the ship. A human colony of 5,000 was ordering a battle group to turn back? The arrogance was almost admirable, he sent his reply. Humans have no claim here. You have 1 hour to evacuate before we take control of this system. Resist and you will be removed by force. Helen read the message to her people over the colony-wide communication system. They give us 1 hour. They think we will run. They think we are weak because we tried to be peaceful. They are about to learn the difference between peaceful and weak. The colony prepared, not to evacuate but to defend. Orbital defense platforms that had been installed months ago powered up. The colonists moved into sheltered areas, and they waited. On the Defiant, Jake Morrison received urgent orders. His patrol ship had been repositioned weeks ago, along with dozens of others. Now he understood why. His orders were simple and direct. Proceed to Haven at maximum speed. Defend the colony. Rules of engagement. Weapons free. This is the line. Make them understand that. Jake felt his heart race. After months of watching and waiting, humanity was finally done being patient. He gave the orders, and the Defiant jumped to faster-than-light speed. But he was not alone. Across human space, other ships received the same orders. The Earth Defense Force ship Valiant led the group. Captain Daniel Brooks stood on her bridge watching the countdown timer. Months of preparation had led to this moment. The Krenth thought they were attacking a weak colony. They were about to face something very different. Admiral Grant had been clear in his final briefing. We let them push us for 3 years. We negotiated in good faith while they mocked us. We offered compromise while they took what they wanted. That ends today. At Haven, we draw the line. Let the galaxy see what happens when you push humanity too far. Daniel had asked one question. What if other species object? What if the Assembly calls it an act of war? The Admiral had smiled coldly. Let them. We are done caring what they call it. We know what it is. It is the consequence of their choices. They wanted to see us leave the table. Now they get to see what we do when we are not at the table anymore. Back on Haven, Helen stood on the observation deck and watched the stars. Somewhere out there, Krenth ships were coming to take her home, and somewhere else, human ships were coming to defend it. She did not know if they would win, but she knew they would fight. And she knew the galaxy was about to learn something important about humanity. You could ignore humans at the negotiating table. You could mock their proposals and dismiss their claims, but you could not take their homes without a fight. And humans, it turned out, were very good at fighting when they had to be. The hour was almost up. The galaxy faces consequences, I Grode Zero. Once humans step away from negotiations, the Krenth battle group dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the Haven system. 15 warships, each capable of destroying a small moon. Commander Thex himself led the group from his flagship. He wanted to personally oversee humanity's humiliation. Scan the system, he ordered. His tactical officer worked quickly. Governor, the human colony is still there. Population centers show full activity. They did not evacuate. Thex felt satisfaction rather than surprise. Good. Let the humans be stubborn. It would make the lesson more memorable. Any defensive capabilities? Some orbital platforms. Old models. Nothing that can threaten us. Excellent. Open a channel to the colony. On Haven, Helen received the incoming transmission. She had the council gathered around her, along with the heads of the colony defense force. Everyone knew what was coming. Thex's scaled face filled the screen. Human Governor, your hour has expired. Surrender the colony immediately or we will take it by force. You cannot defend against the might of the Krenth Empire. Helen kept her voice steady. This is human territory. We will not surrender what is ours. If you attack us, you attack humanity. The consequences will be yours to bear. Thex laughed, the sound like rocks grinding together. Consequences? From humans? You left the Assembly because you were too weak to negotiate. Now you are too weak to defend yourselves. Last chance. Evacuate or die. We stay, Helen said simply. Come and try to take us, Thex cut the transmission. He turned to his weapons officer. Target the orbital platforms. Destroy them. Then target the main population center. Give them one demonstration of our power. After they see their defenses fall, they will beg to evacuate. Yes, Commander. The Krenth ships moved into attack formation. Weapons charged. Targeting systems locked on. Then every alarm on every Krenth ship started screaming at once. Commander, the tactical officer shouted. Multiple ships dropping out of light speed. Human signatures. Dozens of them. They are surrounding us. Thex spun to look at the display. It was impossible. Human ships were appearing from nowhere, forming a perfect sphere around his battle group. How had they gotten here without being detected? Where had they been hiding? The answer was simple. They had been waiting. Admiral Grant had positioned ships throughout the region weeks ago, powered down and drifting in the cold dark between stars. The moment the Krenth appeared at Haven, the human ships activated and jumped to predetermined coordinates. The Valiant appeared directly in front of Thex's flagship. It was smaller than the Krenth vessel but moved with deadly precision. Other human ships surrounded the Krenth battle group. They did not outnumber the Krenth, but they had position and surprise. On the Valiant, Daniel Brooks opened a channel. His face appeared on every Krenth ship's display at once. Krenth vessels. This is Captain Daniel Brooks of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered sovereign human territory with hostile intent. You have one opportunity to leave peacefully. Turn your ships around and depart this system immediately. Thex stared at the screen in disbelief. This was the same human who had walked out of the Assembly 3 months ago. The diplomat who had stood before the galaxy and been laughed at. Now he commanded a warship and gave orders to the Krenth Empire. You dare threaten us? Thex roared. We are the Krenth. We have conquered star systems while your species was learning to make fire. That was your last chance, Daniel said calmly. Now you learn what happens when you threaten human lives. The Valiant fired a single shot. It was not a killing blow. It was a demonstration. The weapon, developed by Dr. Claire Watson and her team over the past months, was a precision kinetic strike enhanced by new targeting systems. It bypassed the Krenth flagship's shields as if they were not there, and hit the weapons array with perfect accuracy. The flagship's entire weapon system went offline. No explosion, no casualties, just instant disablement. One shot, one result. Thex watched his weapons board turn red across every station. Impossible. Krenth shields were the best in the galaxy. How had the humans bypassed them? That was a warning, Daniel's voice came through again. The next shot will be your engines. The shot after that will be life support. You have 30 seconds to begin your withdrawal. Jake Morrison, watching from the Defiant, felt pride surge through him. Months of waiting and preparation had led to this moment. The Krenth, so confident in their power, now sat helpless while a human captain dictated terms. But Thex was not ready to surrender. He had 15 ships. Even if his flagship was disabled, his battle group could fight. All ships target the human vessels. Fire at will! 14 Krenth warships opened fire. Beams of energy and kinetic projectiles filled the space around Haven, and the human ships danced through it all. The new shield technology that Claire had pushed to completion worked perfectly. Human vessels absorbed hits that should have destroyed them and kept fighting. Their maneuverability, always superior because humans had learned to pilot in Earth's difficult gravity well, made them nearly impossible to target effectively. The human return fire was precise and devastating. They did not aim to destroy. They aimed to disable. One by one, Krenth ships lost weapons, then engines, then found themselves drifting helplessly in space. The entire battle lasted 6 minutes. When it ended, every Krenth ship was disabled. Not destroyed. Not obliterated. Just rendered completely helpless. Crews were alive but impotent. The message was clear. Humans could have killed them all. They chose not to, but they absolutely could have. Daniel opened a channel to Thex again. The Krenth commander looked like he had swallowed poison. Commander Thex, Daniel said, his voice formal and cold. Do you remember the assembly session 3 months ago? You asked what fleet we had to enforce our claims. You asked what weapons made you fear our objection. Now you have your answer. Thex said nothing. What could he say? Repair ships will arrive shortly to restore your engines only. Daniel continued. You will be escorted to the border of human space and released. You will return to your empire and deliver this message. Haven is human territory. Every system we have claimed is human territory. Any attempt to violate that territory will be met with the same response you received today. Do you understand? Thex forced himself to speak. I understand. Good, one more thing. We could have destroyed you. We did not. Remember that. Humanity does not seek war. But we will absolutely fight one if forced to. Tell your empire. Tell the galaxy. We are done negotiating with beings who will not negotiate in good faith. From now on, we enforce our own interests. The channel closed. Human ships maintained their positions around the disabled Krenth vessels. On Haven, the colonists cheered. They had stood firm and humanity had backed them up. The line had been drawn and defended. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light speed. The Galactic Assembly received reports within hours. The species that had laughed at humanity 3 months ago now scrambled to understand what had happened. The Krenth, the most powerful military force in the region, had been defeated without a single ship destroyed, disabled, humiliated, and sent home like children being scolded. The humans had demonstrated capabilities beyond anything in the intelligence reports. On Harmony Prime, Zixquan called an emergency assembly session. The chamber that had been so confident before now buzzed with fear and confusion. How is this possible? Maxwell demanded. The humans were weak. They walked away from the assembly. They isolated themselves. How do they have such power? Ambassador Lyra spoke softly, but everyone heard her. They did not become powerful in 3 months. They were always powerful. We just never bothered to look. We saw a species that preferred negotiation and assumed they could not fight. We confused their patience with weakness. We are the fools, not them. Commander Thex, appearing via communication link from his disabled flagship, looked broken. The assembly must respond. This is an act of war against the Krenth Empire. Is it? Lyra challenged. You invaded their territory. You threatened their colony. They defended themselves. By what law of the galaxy is that an act of war? They disabled an entire battle group. After you fired first, Lyra pointed out. And they could have destroyed you. They chose not to. That shows remarkable restraint for a species you claimed was barbaric. Zixquan tried to restore order. The assembly must decide how to respond to this situation. There is nothing to decide, Lyra said firmly. Humanity withdrew from this assembly. They told us they would enforce their own interests. They have done exactly what they said they would do. We are the ones who refused to listen. Across the galaxy, other species watched and calculated. The Krenth had been beaten. The humans had shown power and restraint in equal measure. The old order of the galaxy was crumbling, and humanity, the species that had been dismissed and mocked, now stood as the power that everyone had to consider. The consequences had begun. The galaxy faces consequences. Once humans step away from negotiations, the battle at Haven changed everything. Within days, the entire galaxy knew what had happened. The Krenth Empire, feared for their military might, had been defeated by humans without losing a single ship. The species that had walked away from the Galactic Assembly in shame now stood as a power that could not be ignored. On Earth, Admiral Grant watched the incoming messages flood his communication systems. Dozens of species wanted to talk. Some wanted trade agreements. Others wanted protection. A few wanted to apologize, though they did not use that word directly. Daniel Brooks sat across from the Admiral in his office. Outside the windows, the Atlantic Ocean stretched to the horizon. It seemed peaceful, but both men knew the peace was fragile. "The Galactic Assembly has formally requested our return to negotiations," Daniel said, reading from his datapad. Zixquan himself signed the message. "They want to discuss territorial rights and trade arrangements." "Do they mention recognizing our claims to the Outer Rim?" Admiral Grant asked. "Not directly. They suggest a compromise where we would receive some systems in exchange for returning to the Assembly." Admiral Grant leaned back in his chair. "So they want us to give up what we discovered and surveyed in exchange for the privilege of listening to them mock us again?" "No." "That is what I thought you would say." "What do we tell them?" The Admiral thought for a long moment. "We tell them that humanity is no longer interested in the Galactic Assembly. Species that want to deal with us can approach us directly, one at a time. We will negotiate individual treaties based on mutual respect and benefit. The Assembly can continue doing whatever it does. We will do the same, separately." Daniel smiled. It was the answer he had hoped for. "That will fracture the Assembly. Some species will break away to deal with us directly." "Yes, and that is their choice to make. We are not forcing anyone to do anything. We are simply offering an alternative to a system that did not work for us." The first species to approach humanity directly was the Methan. Ambassador Lyra arrived on Earth 3 days after the battle at Haven. She came alone, without the formality and ceremony that usually accompanied diplomatic visits. She wanted to talk, not to perform. Lauren Hayes met her at the landing facility. The two had known each other during the assembly days, and there was mutual respect between them. "Ambassador Lyra, welcome to Earth," Lauren said formally. "Please, just Lyra," the Methan replied. Her energy form glowed soft blue in the afternoon light. "I am not here as an ambassador of the Assembly. I am here as a representative of my people, speaking directly to yours." They walked together through gardens that had been planted specifically for alien visitors. Earth had learned long ago that showing natural beauty helped in diplomacy. The planet's aggressive ecosystem impressed most visitors who came from gentler worlds. "My people wish to establish a formal alliance with humanity," Lyra said without preamble. "We see what is happening in the galaxy. The old power structures are failing. The Assembly cannot protect smaller species from aggressive ones like the Krenth. We need partners who will treat us fairly." "And you think humanity will do that?" Lauren asked. "I know you will. I studied your history before you joined the galactic community. You have fought wars among yourselves, yes, but you have also built alliances that lasted centuries. You understand the concept of mutual benefit. The Assembly only understands dominance and submission." Lauren considered this carefully. "What does your alliance proposal include?" "Trade agreements with fair terms, defense pacts where we support each other if attacked, cultural exchange programs, and most importantly, honest communication. No games, no manipulation. If we have problems, we talk about them directly." "That sounds reasonable. But you know this will anger the Assembly. The Krenth especially will see it as betrayal." Lyra's glow brightened, a sign of determination. "The Assembly is already broken. The Krenth proved that when they attacked Haven, despite Assembly rules about territorial disputes. If the rules do not protect us, then the rules are worthless. My people choose to align with those who will stand by their commitments." Within a week, Lauren and Lyra had drafted a treaty. It was simple and clear, written in language that left no room for misinterpretation. The Methan would have access to human medical technology and military protection. Humans would have access to Methan knowledge of ancient galactic history and their unique energy-based technology. Both species would defend each other if attacked. Admiral Grant approved the treaty. So did the Methan government. It was signed in a simple ceremony on Earth, with no grand speeches or elaborate rituals. Just two species agreeing to treat each other with respect. The treaty made waves across the galaxy. If the Methan could deal directly with humans, why not others? The Velen Merchant Guild approached next, desperate to restore trade. Pexrin himself came to Earth hat in hand, asking for a second chance. Daniel met with him personally. "We need your goods," Pexrin admitted. "Our economy is collapsing without them. We were wrong to side against you in the assembly. We let profit calculations blind us to the value of good relationships." "You voted to give the Krenth our territory," Daniel said flatly. "Why should we trust you now?" "Because we learned our lesson. A hard lesson, but sometimes those are the only kind that matter. We are merchants, Captain Brooks. We understand value. And we finally understand that fair dealing has more value than short-term profit." Daniel studied the small reptilian trader. "If we agree to trade with you, it will be on our terms. Fair prices, but no special favors. No using our goods to manipulate other species. No reselling our medical technology at prices that hurt people who need it." "Agreed. We just want to trade fairly." The Human-Velen trade agreement was signed 2 weeks later. It included strict rules about ethical commerce and price controls on essential goods like medical supplies. The Velen accepted all of it. They had learned that dealing with humans required actual fairness, not just the appearance of it. More species followed. The Drex, who had remained neutral during the assembly conflicts, approached humanity with a science-sharing proposal. Humans had unique perspectives on engineering and biology, shaped by surviving on a death world. The Drex had advanced mathematics and physics. Together, they could accomplish more than separately. 4 smaller species formed what they called the Democratic Federation and collectively approached Earth for a mutual defense treaty. They had watched the Krenth expansion with fear, knowing they could not defend themselves individually. Together with human military support, they had a chance. Within 2 months of the Haven battle, 8 species had established direct relationships with humanity outside the assembly structure. Each treaty was different, tailored to the specific needs and strengths of both parties. But all of them shared one thing. They were based on actual respect and mutual benefit, not on power games and dominance. The Galactic Assembly tried to continue as before, but the cracks were obvious. The Krenth Empire raged against humanity, calling them disruptors and troublemakers, but no one listened. The Krenth had been defeated at Haven and everyone knew it. Commander Thex sat in his command center on the Krenth homeworld, staring at reports of species defecting from the assembly to deal with humans directly. His career was over. His reputation was destroyed, all because he had underestimated a species he thought was weak. He finally understood what Ambassador Lyra had tried to tell the assembly months ago. Humanity had never been weak. They had been patient. They had tried to work within the system. When the system failed them, they built a new one. On Harmony Prime, Zixquan watched his assembly crumble. The Keeks had maintained the assembly for thousands of years, using it to keep peace through complicated political balance. Now that balance was destroyed. Species were forming their own alliances, setting their own rules, and the assembly could do nothing to stop it. He sent one final message to Earth, asking if humanity would reconsider returning to the assembly. The response came from Admiral Grant personally. The assembly had its chance to treat humanity fairly. For 3 years we negotiated in good faith. We offered compromise and cooperation. We were met with mockery and theft. We will not return to a system that does not value what we bring to it. Species that want to work with us know where to find us. The rest can continue as they were. Without us, it was final. Absolute. The old galactic order was over. On Haven, Governor Helen Price stood on the observation deck and watched ships come and go from the colony. Human merchants bringing supplies, Methan visitors on cultural exchanges, Velen traders establishing new routes. The colony that almost fell to Krenth aggression was now a hub of activity and growth. Carl Martinez stood beside her. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this when we voted to stay?" Helen smiled. "I knew we would fight. I did not know we would win so completely, but I should have trusted humanity more. We are good at surviving, and even better at adapting." On the Defiant, Jake Morrison received new orders. Instead of patrolling disputed borders, he was now escorting ships through new trade routes. Human allies needed protection while they built their own defenses. It was boring work compared to the battle at Haven, but it was important work.